Hey YouTube, it's the Brick Building Kids. Today I'm here with Chaseman, and we are going to be working on part 1 of our basement office room build. Alright, so today we are going to show you how to frame a new wall. So Chase and I are going to show you how to frame this new wall with 2x4s, screws, and everything else that you need. So speaking of materials, let's go over what materials you're going to need. Alright, so we're going to need 2x4s. We're going to need heavy-duty screws. We're also going to need masonry screws for our build, since we're going to be attaching it to a concrete floor and concrete walls. And we're going to need a masonry bit. We'll also need a tape measure, safety goggles, a saw. In our case, we're going to use a miter saw, and a drill.
Measure your area to ensure you have enough wood. Step 2. Plan around new doors. Know the rough opening size. Make sure you plan on your studs to be 16 inches on center. 3. Plan first cut. 96 inches will be our top.
Step 4, we need to plan our bottom cut. So we need to allow for a rough opening of our planned door. Now we're going to go with a 30-inch door, so our rough opening width is going to be 32 inches for that 30-inch door. We're going to cut one of the pieces 96 inches like we just did, but we're going to put it in 3 different pieces. Our first cut will be 35 inches, then we'll cut another section for the 32-inch rough opening, which will kind of be our temporary spacer. And this will give us the bottom section of the frame.
Step 5. Cut all your studs. Find your stud length from top to bottom. Remember to allow for the size of the header and footer. Our size from top to bottom is 83.75 inches. So our studs will be a cut at 80.75 inches. Step 6. Cut stud spacers. I always have a couple, so I have them for convenience. Cut them 14.5 inches. Have them between the studs when you are attaching them to be sure the space is correct.
Alright, so step 7, we're going to attach your studs to the header and footer. So start with one of the ends and make sure your edges are flush. Use 2 screws per stud on the top and bottom, and make sure you use the spacers in between. Alright, now for our step 8, the rough opening of the door. Now we've allowed for 32 inches per the guidelines of our door. And we need to allow for the height of the door, when it's 82 inches. So our frame around the door will be 80.5 top to bottom. But what we need to do now is make sure that our width at the top is the same as our width is at the bottom. So we're going to mark some indicators here before we put our screws in. Alright guys, so we have our first part of our wall done now. As you can see, there's still a pretty big gap here. Now what we're going to end up doing is I've cut out a smaller wall in the basement. I find it easier to work with smaller wall pieces, so we're just going to attach it here. So I'm going to build that same way we built this one, just with no center for the door. And then we're going to attach this, and I'm going to show you next how we attach this all to the floor and make everything level so it looks like a good wall. So let's move forward. Alright, so now we're at the point where I have my wall built. So the studs are being held together by just the studs. I have just some anchors set in place up top just so it stays together. When I joined both of these pieces together, I used these clamps to make sure that this was flush. But what we're going to do now is, for myself, since we're building a new wall, I want to try to make it so the drywall kind of flows in with this. So we're going to look at our drywall size, and we're going to space this wall top to bottom so it lines up with that. So I'm gonna find where I'm level, and I'm gonna put some screws here to the side so it attaches to the wall, so I can kind of base everything else off that. All right, now to show what we're trying to do here is I've just put a piece of drywall, a small piece of drywall, just up, just so we can kind of see to make sure that we are level here. So I'm sorry, even here. So we are even. So I'm gonna attach a screw through the other side here, and then we're gonna go up top and we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna make sure that we're nice and level as well and adjust from there. All right, so the entire wall is set in place. I had some temporary settings up here so I could move the wall around. We have the wall moved, so everything is even with where we want to hit on this side and on this side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my drill, and I'm going to drill a starter hole through the plywood or through the footer, and then I'm going to use a concrete bit to drill a hole into the concrete so I can set these in the basement so they do not move. So all of our floorboard, or all of our baseboard here at the bottom, footer, if you will, we're all anchored in. So at the bottom we are good. So I'm going to make sure all of these are level, and then at the top we're not going to be able to attach this directly to a joist. So I left enough room so I could have a few boards set in place, and we're just going to attach that up there once we verify that they're level. All right, so now we have our entire wall up. We're getting ready to prep for the door and for drywall. So I've taken a clamp up top, and what I've done is I've clamped the wall in place. So, and we're going to go through and attach screws all the way through our top board. That way the wall is nice and sturdy. So I got my wall nice and level. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put screws through the tops of all of them. Alright guys, so at this point, no matter where you touch, no matter where you pull the wall, this should be extremely solid. So we've anchored it to the top with our screws. We've anchored it to the floor with our concrete bits. We've anchored it to the surrounding walls as well. This is, like I said, this is exterior wall of our basement, so we've used concrete screws for the interior, attaching it. So we just use the same screws that we were using to create our wall. So we're going to drywall this now. If you want to tune into our drywalling, I'm going to put that in a separate video. We're going to run some wires as well, so we'll include that in our drywall video, and how to install your new door. So appreciate you guys tuning into the Brick Building Kids. Thank you very much again for watching, and have a great day.